So, a really exciting event is happening here in Winnipeg with the Jewish Child and Family Services. And we have a member of that team here to tell us a little bit more about that. Welcome here. Just for our guests and audience, a quick introduction, please. A little bit about who you are and the work you do at Jewish Child and Family Services.
Yeah, I'm Alexis Winzowski. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of JCFS Winnipeg. And JCFS Winnipeg is an agency that impacts 5,000 lives in Winnipeg a year. And so we have multi-services. So we have a settlement integration services. We have a child welfare department. We have a older adult services. We have a food security program. Um, but today we're really here to talk about our mental health and addictions and our counseling
A
program.
very important topic.
Yeah, so important. So this year is our second annual year of running a raffle for mental wellness.
Mhm.
And the raffle is available online on Rafflebox. So check it out, JCFS Winnipeg, shameless plug. But what we have seen is a rising need. And so we tried to look at doing a fundraiser that is fun and engages people in a really important cause.
Well, I know last year, kind of the story of what came out of the jackpot and raffle is really exciting and talks about how the community has really come together. You're mentioning that, through the money raised, the person who won the jackpot actually donated it. So, from that perspective in, these community growths to make these programs and initiatives work, from that aspect of community, what was, JCFS, reaction of like hearing that they wanted to give back.
I think saying overwhelmed and grateful was an understatement. The jackpot last year hit $26,000 and we were so pumped and we're like, $13,000, that will help us run our groups, or it could also help us provide counseling for someone who can't afford counseling, good clinical counseling, because we have a geared to income counseling program. Um, but when we did the draw, it was the donor, well, now a donor came back and said, no, you know what? I know people are struggling. Mental health matters. I have children. I have grandchildren. I want to make an impact. And so $26,000 allowed us to run some of our programs. Like we had a bereavement program, a bereavement group. We had, again, the subsidized counseling. We had mental health workshops and webinars. And so it gave us the freedom to do the good work we do every day. And this year, I hope we are in a similar situation. If we're not, it doesn't matter. What it matters is
Well,
that we're,
fingers crossed, right?
fingers crossed, we're engaging people in an important cause. And what also made a difference to us last year was that it wasn't just Winnipeggers that got involved and were buying tickets. We had people in Brandon buying tickets. We had
Oh,
people
nice.
in Gimli buying tickets, in Steinbeck. And what they said was, we believe in mental health. This cause is really, really
Hmm.
important. And some of them contacted us and said, you know, my spouse is struggling. Can I access your services? Absolutely. We do hybrid counseling. So here's the intake process. Let's get it
Yeah.
started.
So it was really a united front across Manitoba coming together to make that happen then.
Yeah, I was definitely united front, and I think it helped to demystify a little bit about the work JCFS does. I think it helped to demystify. Sometimes people see that word Jewish and they're like, they only serve Jewish people. But
Yeah.
really, our counseling program serves everyone, and our mental health workshops serve everyone. We have a workshop running this summer called Mindful
Hmm.
Movements, where people gather in Assiniboine Park. They go for a walk with some
Okay.
therapists, and then they do some mindful movements afterwards. No barrier, completely free, and they get together as a community.
Do you find that aspect of, having it more casual allows people to feel less intimidated when going in to see that? Because, when people think of therapy, counseling, just mental health, a lot of people kind of pull into themselves. They're like, ooh, I don't want to deal with that. Oh, I don't want to open up that can of worms for
Yeah,
myself.
actually, it's really interesting you talk about that because I think we have to make mental health accessible. And often the good work happens when we don't even realize it. So, doing activities like walking in the park and maybe learning some mindfulness at the same part, no barrier. The other aspect is around maybe not everyone's going to call us for help, or maybe not everyone's going to call any agency for help, but they might do a quick Google search and they might see a webinar and watch it in their privacy of their home and gain some skills that they can take back into their life. And so that's another push we've been doing around not everyone has to register as a client to benefit from our services. It's people are curious. People, their time is valuable. If you're a mom and you're busy with your kids and your kids are screaming, and then you put them to bed at night, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to
I
do?
need something.
I
Something.
need something. So I might Google burnt out parent, and maybe one of our parenting workshops is up on YouTube, and maybe it makes a little bit of a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, when we have a program called Mental Health Break with the
Oh,
Mood
okay.
Disorders Association of Manitoba, and Rita Shahal, amazing, amazing woman.
Yeah.
But she always talks about the mental health continuum
Mm-hmm.
that exists from the different aspects, whether that is, you know, peer-to-peer kind of connection and support, whether that is more, practice sessions, therapy, and things. Everyone falls somewhere on that continuum, and everyone fluctuates from day to day. You're saying the mother burned out,
Yeah,
just
cuts
needs a little bit of
tire.
a break. They might be here
Yeah.
on the continuum. Taking that break, resting, find those things can help them adjust. So, like, all those different aspects add up.
They do, and it's very easy for you to move from one area on the continuum to another area of the continuum. And so that's when agencies across Manitoba, we're not unique that this,
Mhm.
especially that do the work in mental health, is it's important we offer that range and that people know that range is there, because it is sometimes it's you're driving a car and your car breaks down. You don't want to go into the ditch. So it's that, what do
Yep.
I do? How do I get help? How do I access that help? So I just change a tire and I continue driving rather than being stuck in the ditch.
Exactly. So, through the whole jackpot process last year, what are some important conversation pieces or questions that came up through that engagement of people, wanting to support, finding out, oh, what are some of those programs that GCFS offers, as well as, what exactly is mental health? What are some important aspects? Were aspects of those conversations that were coming up?
Yeah, there are lots. First of all, it was, well, tell me more about your mental health and addictions
Mhm.
program. And so we said, we have a mental health and addictions and counseling program that is kind of across that continuum. So we have the intensive case management for people that are living with chronic mental health
Mhm.
that need to be supported and may need to be connected to housing,
Yeah.
EIA, other resources. And then we have other things like our bereavement group, our we have a wellness group for people that are living with mental health at Peer Connect.
Mhm.
Um, it was also explaining to them that our counseling services, we deliver about 1,500 sessions a year,
Mhm.
and there's a wait list of only 2 months. So across that is really, really impressive when you look how wait lists are managed across the country. Having a wait list of 2 months is incredible. And it's not perfect. We're not at
Yeah.
a spot where we're perfect, but it is really incredible to be able to offer that. And then it was saying to people, and I had mentioned this before, it's geared to income. So if you are living on paycheck to paycheck and you are struggling, because we are all struggling right now with the rising cost of
Mhm.
living and those Donald Trump tariffs, um, is that sometimes people look at it and they say, I don't even know, I'm struggling, but I don't know if I
Mhm.
can afford therapy.
Yeah.
And so it's coming and taking a look at their income statements in a way that's no shame, no blame. Like, okay, it's only going to cost you $5. Let's figure this
And
out
like, you
together.
don't want aid and supports like that to be geared to only those in
No,
financially secure situations. For
absolutely.
people who are struggling, that stress and where they are on that mental health continuum could be more, fluctuating bit depending on the
Absolutely.
situations.
Like we are really, like we're firm believers is that mental health is something that we all live with.
Mhm.
It's the idea that we are all human, having a human experience in the world. And so it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter your income, doesn't matter your background. You should be able to access these
Yeah.
services and making it accessible and making it work. It was also educating people around, do we do sessions hybrid? Yes, we do. Do we offer sessions in different languages? Yes, we do. So we have our clinical director is actually originally from Argentina. So she's fluent in Spanish and English. We have some therapists that are fluent in Hebrew and English and also in Russian and English. And that makes a big difference too.
Do you find people from different cultures, backgrounds, and countries, when they come in and talk about mental health or take part in these different programs and therapies, do they talk about mental health differently?
Yeah, it's interesting. We post October 7th, we offered a mental health service to anyone
Yeah.
that were struggling with the events of October 7th. And we actually had some Muslim members of the community that came to us and said, we're really struggling with what's going on and how to navigate this. We're pacifists, and how do we approach this? And so, again, these services were available for them in a really safe environment.
Mhm.
Um, Culturally, different cultures do approach mental health different ways. There's
Yeah.
different stigmas. We're actually really investing in next year around looking at men's mental health, because men's mental health is often not talked about. We know men are more likely to, unfortunately, self-harm or commit suicide when their appropriate supports aren't there. And so we're taking a look at how do we reach those men in a way where they're engaged in their mental health, but where it's not like, come in and sit down and talk for therapy.
Yeah, it's finding those different approaches where people are more engaged or willing to open up in there. Not just the typical, like, oh, let's sit down, talk about this, like those walking in the park, those different
Yeah.
aspects open up different opportunities for different people.
Yeah, and I think that is one of those interesting things that came out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
The pandemic taught us all to stop thinking in a box and look outside the box. Not everything has to be done status quo. During the pandemic, everyone across the country pivoted, and social services especially were able to offer services differently to make an impact. And now we're seeing that play out in different ways with how we approach, how do we deliver services to people.
hmm So for this year, the jackpot and the funds that are being raised,
Yeah.
what sort of aspect or conversations are you hoping to touch on this year that kind of opens up, breaks down certain stereotypes or understandings of mental health and addiction services?
Yeah, so we actually have the men's mental health is a big aspect.
Yes.
Another one, we have a couple of workshops coming in the fall, open to everyone. So give us a call at JCFS 204 4. Say never mind. Visit www.jcfswinnipeg.org. And that is a shameless plug, breaking the fourth wall. But really, it is around addiction. So we'll have a workshop on social media and addictions, and how social media impacts our mental health and mental wellness. We're doing one for children and youth, and then we're also doing one for adults.
Well, I think that's a lot of people when they think of addictions, they think of substances,
Yeah, no.
alcohol, drugs, but it's so much more. It's about those behaviors and those reliances on things. I know for myself and many other millennials,
Yeah.
the phone is hard to put down. Those aspects of, oh, I need to have it out. I need to check. I need to go.
Yeah.
That's an addiction.
It is. And I was actually having a conversation with our clinical director on Friday about planning workshops for the coming year. And we have supports around narcotics and around alcohol and substance use. But I said, let's talk about wine o'clock for moms. Like, what about that? Or let's talk about shopping addictions or credit card debt and how we become really addicted to using our credit
Oh,
cards.
definitely.
And
You're like, just another thing. Oh, that's on sale. Buy one, get one free. Let me just add that to cart.
right. And then all those feelings of self-shame, lack of self-worth, lack of being able that go along with it. And so we have to look, and like you alluded to this about our behaviors in our life, and kind of saying, yeah, addictions it's way more insidious than what you expect. It's
Mhm.
everywhere. And how do we meet people where they're at?
Yeah, and it's if you don't understand that or you don't address like, oh, this is an addiction, it feeds the beast, right? You're like,
Right.
oh, this isn't too bad. I can just do this. And I know gambling addiction
Yeah.
is another big one. A lot of services online on streaming services opening up that door for younger and younger people to be like, oh, I can take part in this. Oh, let me just do a little bit gambling. And then there's that whole other aspect of like microtransactions in video games or those sort of things that
Yeah.
get kids really, really young.
They do. I actually play video games myself, so I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. And I think even with our raffle, we had some people saying, well, isn't a raffle gambling? And it was like, okay, like that's a fair criticism. Um, we want people to know is that if they're struggling with a gambling addiction as well, come reach out to us. Come reach out to us if we see a continued behavior in certain people buying
Yeah.
tickets over and over and over again. We might contact them and say, "Do you need help with this?" So
Yeah,
we're being very
recognizing those
mindful.
red flags.
Yeah, being really mindful of how we approach this.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. So, what is kind of your hopes out of this? There's all these different programs and ideas that you're having, and the raffle and everything helps fund that. But what are some things that need to go further in terms of mental health supports, addiction services, not just through the work that you're doing, but kind of societal as a whole? As you're mentioning, 2 months is great, but sometimes people need a little faster turnaround. What are some aspects you're noticing just, through the work that you're doing, as well as with your colleagues, that we could help address kind of on a societal level here in Winnipeg and maybe Manitoba that helps uplift people, helps, address some of these shortfalls?
So there's a
I know that's a really
no,
loaded question.
no, that's a good question. That is, I think you said, and I go back to this theme of being a continuum. Mental health starts in infancy. We know that children that are exposed to trauma, it affects their developing brain, and so having services there. But then we also have seniors. And we have an aging population. And so JCFS is really fortunate. We do have an aging mental health program, but investing in geriatric mental health, looking at our parents or our grandparents that may have experienced trauma when they're younger, or have had mental health diagnoses, often
Mhm.
um, often without receiving supports, because there's a lot of stigma going on with that generation too that
Of
we didn't
course.
talk about. But making mental health accessible for them, and approaching them through a compassion-based lens. Um, Ultimately, I would love us to say that we live in a world where mental health does not exist, like mental health challenges do not exist. I don't think that's ever a realistic expectation because we're humans.
Of
But I
course.
think everyone should be able to, just like when we're sick, we can go to the doctor and get help for our bodies. Um, we should also be able to, when we're struggling with mental health, be able to access supports anywhere in the same sort of way. Um, I also believe that um, people, in my ideal world and sort of community, is that people will be
Yeah.
more
Okay.
mindful of their own experiences and their own emotions.
Okay. I'm
And
seeing the picture being painted.
yeah,
Okay.
and being a little bit more accepting of that. Like, it's okay to feel angry sometimes. It's okay to feel sad sometimes. It's okay to feel stressed sometimes. How do you navigate that? So, there's a lot of really interesting apps going on that are happening there. But I think people just recognizing we're human, and we're all going to feel kind of bad sometimes or kind of great. And let's celebrate that for who we are.
So it sounds like a core component of that vision and dream is community, then, of community
Thousand
coming
percent.
together.
So there is a Jewish a sage, a historian, and I love this. I always go back to. He has this quote. His name is Josephus. It was around in the time of the Romans, but it's. I think it applies to anyone. We are born for community,
Yeah.
and I think that is the essential human experience. We are people living in a community, having a human experience. So when we're able to find others that support us and lift us up, there's nothing we can't accomplish together.
What sort of recommendations or advice would you give someone to, get out there to help build community? For a lot of people, the pandemic is a big thing. We're still talking about the impacts of it, especially for younger kids. When we're looking at statistics, for both girls and boys, the number of friends that they have is decreasing year over year. Community's getting smaller, and when you
Yes.
go online on the internet, feels very volatile on
It
times. You're going in,
does.
you're like, oh, I just want to look at this thing. You're like, oh, well, that's a lot of really bad things seeing there. Okay, let's put that away right now. How do you rebuild? How do you rekindle that community?
It's interesting. I think screens have really isolated us. I think there's a couple of different things that happen when we're adults. It's like I can't make any more new friends.
Yeah.
When you're a little kid, you can go up to someone and be like, "Can I be your friend?" And the person will be like, "Sure, let's be curious.
Can I
Let's
help
do
you
this."
build that
Yeah.
sandcastle?
And when we're adults, we're like, "I can't do that." I think, and I'm coming from my own lived experience of having moved from Ontario to Manitoba,
Yeah.
where it was like stepping outside my box and having to do things over again. Challenge yourself to new experiences, volunteer.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to talk to people, talk to your neighbor, say hello, those kind of things, and approach it with the same sort of curiosity you had as a child.
Yeah.
I think that's really important for children. For community, again, it's taking them to the park. It's getting them involved in volunteering opportunities. It's um, maybe, we have some children's. that have in the past made cards for us that
Aw.
we've given to isolated seniors. And it's like explaining to them how that makes a difference. But also for that senior feeling cared for by someone they don't even know, and the joy of having a children's drawing that they can put up on the fridge.
And then that kind of has a multifaceted approach then, because as you build community, people feel less isolated, which means their mental health continuum improves,
Hmm.
which means people don't lash out, people don't fall into addictions, we don't have as much of a volatile. It's one of those things that, one small thing can add up to a larger impact.
It is that ripple effect. Like if we go through our days, and it's an interesting challenge to think about, and especially now with phones. And I would challenge you to do this: is go through your days and consider how often do you talk to a stranger? If you're sitting in the waiting room of your optometrist, are you on your phone? Are you looking at stuff, or are you maybe chatting with your neighbor? Are you just talking to the receptionist there saying, "How's your day going?" Be curious about that. Approach it those way, because sometimes those small interactions of saying to someone you don't know,
Mm.
"Hey, I really like your outfit," that could make their entire day. And then they're going to go home and they're going to say, "You know what? I feel really good about myself." And maybe that'll have a ripple effect forward. It's the same thing when you're leaving a grocery store and you see a homeless person that is looking for assistance. Um, you could get them a bottle of water. If you don't have that on you, they could get them some change, or you could just acknowledge them as a human being and say,
So just
"I
that
see you."
interaction of, hey, I see you as a person, not just a,
Yeah, yeah. We're so busy living in our own lanes. Again, the world is an open space. Why are we creating these divisions?
good thing to think about. Lots of important information. So, the big thing for everyone out there in Winnipeg, is this raffle going on, the conversations that can open up from that. So if someone is having those struggles,
Hmm.
um, when they come to GCFS about some of those challenges and things that they're experiencing, what are those first steps to find a service or program that can help them?
Yeah, if somebody's coming to JCFS and they're saying I'm struggling, they'll go through an intake process. And that's just talking to one of our intake workers on the phone.
Yeah.
They're very friendly, they're not intimidating. Let me say that.
They're not on their phones.
They're
Don't.
not on their phones. They're not allowed to be on their phones. I am the boss. I will get like, "Hey, what are you doing?" But they can come in person, they can call us, or they can send us an email. Just really quickly, I might be looking for some supports. It's gathering that information, figuring out, kind of triaging where are your needs. Would you need to go into counseling? Would you need to maybe enter into our mental health and addictions program? Um, Maybe there are some workshops coming up we can recommend. But our intake workers don't stop there. They also recommend community resources too outside. So again, it's that connection of like, "Hey, we may not have exactly what you're looking for, but maybe behavioral health does, or maybe the mood disorders of Manitoba does, or
Yeah.
maybe CMHA does," and taking that kind of approach.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, when we're looking at this whole conversation, kind of a culmination of it is, the sports for individuals as well as that aspect of community. And, with the fundraiser that helps support those things, once again, where can people go to help, take part in this? How can they take part in the jackpot? How can they find out more information? And particularly, what is this funding going to help support?
Okay. So you want to visit our website, www.jcfswinnipeg.org, or follow us on social media at JCFS Winnipeg. We are on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, Instagram. Sorry, we're not on TikTok. We haven't we haven't gone there yet. And we're also on
Maybe
YouTube.
in the future?
Maybe in the future.
Maybe. Okay.
That
Okay.
I mean, I'm a borderline millennial Gen X. That might be outside my wheelhouse, but we can look into it for you. Maybe next year. So you can visit there to kind of stay up to date with what's happening. You can also get on our mailing list. So we send out an e-blast. We also have a newsletter that we publish and send to people too, which is because not everyone has access to screens.
Mm-hmm.
And again, being really, really mindful of that. Um, so that's how you can get involved, but you can also get involved through volunteering for our agency. So we're always looking for volunteers, for people to be friendly callers to check into people, for people to do grocery shopping for seniors, to help out with our food pantry, all of those aspects. But Going back to the raffle, tickets start at only $5. So we tried to create it very low barrier. And it doesn't matter if you're in Thompson, Manitoba, or if you're in Tolstoy, Manitoba, you can access the raffle anywhere across the province. And if you need a counseling support, you can always call us from anywhere across the province too.
Awesome. So when's the last day people can get tickets?
So
And when is that announcement of a winner?
August 27th is the last day, and August 28th, our CEO, the amazing Al Benarosh, will be drawing the name, and we'll probably live stream that like we did last year.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in to talk about this important conversation. So yeah, if you want to find out some more information, make sure you go to their website, get a raffle ticket to help support that. And like she was saying, get out there, volunteer, become a part of community.
Come volunteer for this amazing television
Exactly.
station.
You have a story you want to tell? Come out here.
Yes,
You want to talk
it's
about
cool.
mental health? You can sit across from me and we can start that
Yeah.
conversation.
You and I had never met in person before. And so we're having the greatest conversation. And again, it's approaching things with the curiosity of a child. Be curious, connect with people, and be present.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thanks,
Thanks
Ryan.
again. Yes, of course.
Thank you so much.